Then I put a couple things up there that I didn't know if you guys would agree with or not, but let's talk about practical jokes. Aren't practical jokes great? Now, it's funny to everybody but who? Yeah, the person that's the butt of the joke, it's not so funny to them, is it? But it also sets the stage for what else? So somebody, and this happened in the military. Kirk, you got a phone call. I go in, answer the phone, hang up the phone, and everyone's giggling at me the rest of the night, right? And it's not until you go in the bathroom, use the facilities, and you're looking in the mirror, and here's this big old thing of black shoe polish on your ear, right? Ha, ha, ha. What do I do next, though? Retaliate. Now, do I retaliate on the same level? No. Oh, absolutely not. We're up in the game here a little bit, right? Because if they did that to me, I got to do one better than that, right? So in actuality, I know this is kind of, when we look at this, we think, this is probably a little outside the lines. But in actuality, it's not really, if you think about it, some of the things that we do with those practical jokes, that they start getting more and more out of control, to the point that when you retaliate, you're always trying to one up. And at some point in time, it's going to cross over into something that's much more than just a practical joke. It's going to get worse. Okay? How about hazing? We have college bands that are killing folks now with hazing. Being in the military, this is one of the things that we did. When I was first in, I was a jet engine mechanic for 14 years, and one of the things that we did, it wasn't so much people coming in as it was people leaving. Because as people would leave, they'd get a wet down. And it was kind of symbolic, actually. So some of this we put under tradition. Oh, this is tradition. People just need to suck it up and go with this, because this is tradition, right? And so part of this tradition, you wash the dust off of this old dusty base, and so you can start out fresh when you get to your next base. That's the symbolic part of it. But it's not going to work just like that. So kind of what happened is that it would escalate a little bit too, because people aren't willing to stop at one level. So one of the guys, he was a weightlifter, played football, so he knew it was his last day. He knew he was going to get the wet down. So he was the last into roll call. When we were done with roll call, he stepped outside. The first three guys that hit him went this way, that way, and this way, right? Before we tackled him. Oh, there's not any danger of hurting someone in this scenario, is there? And then we carried him around the building, which was about 100 feet around the building to get to the hose. So now we've got 10 or 11 guys, and he's doing everything he can to get loose. There was no danger that we would drop him, right? And when I got my first wet down, when I left Carswell Air Force Base in Texas, they didn't even catch me at roll call. They waited until we were all in the truck, and the truck's going 15 miles an hour down the road. Then they tackled me. Oh, yeah, a moving vehicle and a lot of people wrestling around, and all big guys. Yeah, this isn't going to lead to problems either. You see how this goes? And it went actually to the point to where the last wet down that I saw, the guy actually, they packed him in ice. Hypothermia? You see, it just keeps escalating. And so those things that we think are good humor, they're traditional, those are the things that we see going forward, and we can put them under those kind of things. In actuality, we can see where that starts to affect folks. Use the Miami Dolphins for an example. 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, Incognito, and they had Jonathan Martin. 300-pound lineman. His very job describes violence, right? But he's affected because he's being harassed and hazed. It happens. And our perception is all kind of toughen up, buttercup, right? But in actuality, see, this is the point. It doesn't have to just be physical. Obviously, Jonathan Martin was big enough he could have handled anything physically, but he was affected emotionally and psychologically, okay? So it does play into that. And then you guys kind of talked a little bit about harassment, because there's sexual harassment, but there's other harassment as well. And then you talk about stalking. Yeah, you can have people, and I point to this all the time. In the 1970s, when I was in high school, early to mid 70s, it wasn't considered stalking if you were interested in a girl and you drove by her house 3 or 4 times a day. do that now, cops are coming. There is a difference in how we view things. We've added to this a little bit, okay? And of course, bullying. And I think that that's more the physical thing that we think about, but there's more than that that can happen these days. We have more than that situation in which, we have people that come in and it's just physical size, and it's a lot of other things that play into that. So how about collusion? And I think you guys mentioned that too, is that you can have more than one person that gets on board with it. And I've referred to this in the past as the cops eat their own. And this is what I learned in the military, is that, you have a group of people that they do a really good job, but they have a high intensity job. And with that high intensity job, they have to trust that these people are going to be able to hold up their end of the deal. And so when somebody shows that they're not holding up their end of the deal, what happens? Got to get them out of here. And what's the way to get them out? Is they start focusing in on that guy is either going to improve or that person's going to fail. And that's where it comes down to. And you see a lot of that going on because now you have more than one employee focused in on another employee. And then I think about this today too, because all of our social media. And so this morning I'm thinking, okay, so what is it about social media that we feel we need to make comments? Because I used an example yesterday that I'm not going to use today because someone took offense at that. So I was trying this morning to think about, why is it that we feel like we need to comment on everything that is social media? And it occurred to me, what do they want you to do on Facebook? Somebody puts something on Facebook, and then what are they asking you folks to do? Yeah, I want your comments. Do you like this or dislike this? So we're actually inviting you to, well, number one, I have a Facebook account, but I don't put information out there. I have yet to understand why someone would put all kinds of extra personal information out there. But a lot of people will comment. They put everything, what they had for dinner last night, where they're going, what they're doing. This is a good thing, this is a bad thing, and then they want you to comment. And oh, do you like this or you dislike this? Or so that, yeah, this is what. So we're actually asking people to do that, and it's not a surprise then when anything gets put on the internet that you're seeing all kinds of comments, because what? Why do we feel like we can make comments on Facebook and social media? Why does our society think we can make that and it's benign? So we can say anything we want, right? It's more anonymous. Your name might be attached to it. Yeah, they can't see me. It's like being on the phone, isn't it? Because you can get more upset on the phone than if you're in person. So you can tell them anything over the phone because they don't see your face and they don't know exactly who you are or anything else like that. But I think to a certain extent that there is no accountability for some of the things we see in social media. And I think that that's where we see more problems now for businesses and organizations when it comes to social media, that this can be considered workplace violence. And this is the bleed over, okay? Manipulation, again, people being manipulated and kind of pointed in a direction, that this is where gossiping comes into play, I think, to a certain extent. Where people, somebody starts a rumor and before you know it, boy, those don't take very long to go anywhere, do they? So I think when you consider some of the things that are out there, this all kind of culminates in the fact that that person, whoever the point of all this other stuff is, when you have more than one person that focuses in on them, that they start to feel isolated. And when someone starts to get isolated, they're under the pressure cooker now as well. So you have really a couple of things going on in this situation, but when you put people in that pressure situation, what's going to happen? Eventually, they're going to cave. We call this mobbing. Okay, so you can have mobbing events, domestic dispute or violence. The one thing I didn't put up here too is the fact that suicide could be work-related, and that could be considered workplace violence as well. The last one being up here is the one that we all hear about in the media. This is the active shooter. So do you guys kind of see where the forms are then? That it can go from just almost anything to where we do have a major problem or a major event. So I don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but we are affected more psychologically and emotionally and of course physically, but it can also hit us financially, right? If we're the focus of a harassment, if we're the focus of of the violence, what happens when a person feels like they're being harassed and things like that? What do they tend to do? Yeah, they stop showing up for work. Any excuse, I just don't feel good today, so I'm not coming into work. Well, okay, so when they blow through all of their sick leave and their vacation time, now it's going to start affecting them, right?